excited about it. So this is the first thing I want to do. The title is "Are Men That Date Outside of Their Race Sellouts?" That's the title. Are men that date outside their race sellouts? So what I want to do is I want both of you guys, if possible, if you can real quickly answer that question, yes or no, and then tell us why you say yes or why you say no. So we'll start with you first, Reese.
Well, I have a bit of I guess my perspective on the topic can be biased like anybody. But I do think that there are reasons why our people in particular might be interested in not dating outside of our race because we have more of a cultural mission that I think would be served better if we do not date outside of our race because we're trying to build generational wealth. And if we're talking about the generations that are exposed to the wealth that we can generate, all of that's going to be done based on our genealogy. And so for us to spend so much time trying to become free from westernized culture, trying to become free from westernized occupation, and just the overall, the overhauling of our culture, cultural traditions, ancient traditions, so that we can then turn around and then marry into those same lines that we've been trying to escape for all these years, for all these centuries. It just seems counterproductive for us to go outside of our race as soon as we're now interested in making or creating generational wealth in our communities. So I think my perspective kind of takes on more of a practical perspective, not necessarily an emotional one. Because if I see an interracial couple, I really don't too much care. But the first thing I think about is, like I just said, I'm thinking about the business of our community. I'm thinking about it from a perspective of what are we trying to accomplish, and is that going to help us? And so, from that standpoint, I would say stay with your race. But if you don't care about the building of our genetic richness or the building of our genetic wealth, then I guess to each his own. And that's pretty much how I like to boil down to it. Is that if that's not one of your missions in life to help further or progress the best interests of your people, then by all means, do what makes your heart happy. But if you care about it and it's something that you can actually manage to do, I would suggest doing it. So I kind of just that's how I like to see it.
Mm, okay, all right, Stanley, you wanna you wanna give us your answer? Are men that date outside their race sellouts? Yes or no? And if so, why or why not?
Um, I see a question like that to me is usually subjective. It's based upon what individuals value. If you're looking at if you're looking at yourself as part of a community and part of a group or people, and there's a value in that for you, then you some people may have the idea that for those that are of the same group, they're expecting them to think the same way. Hey, if I value my group and I value my community, I expect you to do the same thing. So if I expect you to do the same thing, therefore you should be all about staying within your community and staying within your people and seeing that for our group, that because that's how we all should be thinking. But not everybody thinks that way. Everybody looks at the world
Mm,
differently. Some people don't.
mm,
Some people look at the entire planet as their people. As long as you're human, we're the same people. Some people look at it as, hey, as long as we're Americans, we're the same people. You know? So even the racist dude, the racist white dude, that's my people too. He just doesn't know it because he's deluded. There are some people that think that way. So at the end of the day, I cannot say it's a sellout thing. It all depends on what that person values. Now, if the individual believes in the development of their people and they believe that there's something keeping, I guess, the race with keeping everything within the race, and they seeing it as a family, and we're separated from the other groups of races or other groups of individuals that are of races and ethnicity. Well, then, yeah, then you'll be inconsistent with your position, then that will be classified as a sellout. But if you do not hold to these ideals, then I would not put that on you. That's my thought.
Reese, you know what's funny is that what you both said was extremely compelling for me because when she was talking, I was like, okay, I see where she's going with this. And then when you were talking, I'm like,
Mhm.
okay, it seems like you're saying different things, but then in the same way, you're kind of saying the same thing. Saying it sounds like you're saying if you hold to those views, like, okay, you want to keep it within your people, meaning your ethnicity. So then yeah, you would be considered a sellout because if you're trying to keep it within your ethnicity and you see your ethnicity as your black people being your people, your community, and you're stepping outside of that to procreate and create, like she talked about, generational wealth, then yeah, because it's like you're taking it out of the community in a sense by procreating with another person from a different ethnicity. My sister sound like, and y'all correct me if I'm wrong, but my sister sounds like she's saying that the reason why she promotes, you know, people to stay with their ethnicity or their race is so that they can long term create generational wealth and keep it within their communities or within their people. Is that what you guys are saying?
Hmm. Yes, in a nutshell, yes, and I was taking even further to kind of address the definition of the word sellout because there are situations where a man might procreate with a woman that is outside of his race, so to speak. And when I say race, I'm talking about melanated people and non-melanated people. To me, I don't consider another ethnic person. Like if your ancestors had an ancient presence on this planet, I would not consider for you to be a person outside of my race. When I talk about human race, I'm talking about melanated beings. So there is just this, I guess, the idea of what selling out actually is to me and what the impact it has on a community. So if you're selling your community out, that means that you have chosen to disown the entire community. It means that you are not considered, or excuse me, you're not concerned with the input or the output of that community, what you're contributing or what you're taking from it. You have completely just, turned your back. And so to me, that person would be more of a sellout. But if you have chosen to, let's say, date or marry or procreate with a person outside of your race, but you're still concerned with your community, you're still giving to your community, you're still, investing in your own people, that we would have to break that down and split some hairs because you're not necessarily a sellout just because your personal life looks a certain way. We're talking about community based action to me if we're talking about a community sellout. So it would look, we would have to look deeper into what you're doing for your community. Now, if you went and got you a Caucasian wife and now all your friends Caucasian and all you do is invest in Caucasian businesses and you don't have nothing for your black people, to me, I'm looking at it like, baby, you a sellout. You're going to educate your children in Caucasian people's schools and you're going to wear their clothes and you're going to change how you talk. You're out. That at that point you are selling out. Because you have nothing to contribute and you're not really taking anything from it. Your life doesn't look like anything like ours. So to me that's more of a person that's going to sell out. But I know some brothers have their Caucasian wives wearing dashikis, okay, and traveling to the motherland and investing, what I'm saying, and investing all of their life savings into building up Africa. So to me that's not a that's not a sellout.
Hmm. Okay, okay. Stanley, you want to speak on that?
I agree 100%.
Yeah. It's
If
not
it,
just the
so that
person you
that
married. Yeah.
exactly. So just because an individual marries outside their race, but they still are contributing to their race in some way, whether they are educating the children, they are putting in time and work, even with their Caucasian spouse, and they're
Yeah.
coming in and you know what I mean. If they're putting in the work and they're trying to develop, they're teaching them financial education and literacy, and teaching them and training them how to invest properly and how to create community and wealth and value to the community. Um, Definitely not a sellout. There were, even in our marches, there were a lot of Caucasian involved, holding hand to hand with Black people to get them the freedoms. So if an individual is marrying into that particular race, and then they're involved in it, then yeah, I could. There's no way that we can call that person a sellout. But I'm sure there are people that believe differently. If they feel the need that you are not marrying you know, if you're a man and you didn't marry your sister, you kind of left your sister behind in that sense. And a lot of people think that way. And I've heard people like, well, I don't know if you want me to throw out names. All right, I'm not gonna do that. There are individuals out there that have the doctor behind their names and make that, you know, particular, you know, thought out in public, that that if you're not married to a particular individual or a type of individual, then he would not respect an individual that way, even if even if they've done a lot for the community. So because you have not respected sister enough to give her your name, you know, and to continue, and you know, they provide these theories that if the sister, if I would die, and then that Caucasian woman marries a Caucasian man, all the wealth that I had put in and goes to the new family now. It transfers over to the new family, and I see the concern, but would that still be classified as a sellout? That I would not say, but I agree.